So welcome back to the second part of this tutorial. This will be the meatiest part of this whole course, because we'll be working on the product page and adding all these products and adding them back to the shopping cart and also implementing the shopping cart. But first we need to make some changes. I realize that when I maximize my window, this top menu is not extending to the end. And to solve that, we just need to let me just work it with it when it's full. For now, maybe use it later. Make it full, and we make my code full. So what we need to target is it was part of the header, and we're targeting this div with the header menu class. So we just need to give it a margin of 100%, so it fills the whole all the space that it has. Let's see if that has worked. Yeah, that has a no, it's this one. No, something has gone wrong. No, it should be with sorry. I don't know where my head is. So let's give it a weight of 100%, and that should work. Okay, so if you guys are enjoying this, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps. And we can go straight into how I promise I'll show you how to get the colors like I'm using from the Amazon website. So to do that, just go to Amazon itself. And if you look at the website, let's say if this banner you want to get it, you just right click and you'll see copy image address. If you copy that image address, that's the image that they're using. The other thing is, maybe you want to look at these colors. You need to right click again, inspect element, look at the elements, and when you highlight any of these elements, you will see the styles here. Let's go to the top of it. You have to really look for where it's highlighting. It's highlighting the main page. It's highlighting the whole page. But once you do that and you find like it's highlighting only this top menu, if you look at the side, you'll see like now the color. You'll see the color, what they've put as a background color and everything. So you can copy paste this and actually just use it, and that's what I'm using on this project. So next we are going to talk about something called Angular routing, and this is where Angular now routes you to different pages, and that is done in one single file. They've made it very simple. You'll see a file under the main folder, the app. Let me close all this, the components, the pages. So under the main app folder, you'll see app routing module. Now, like I said in part 1, this is the part where you put your routes. So the first keyword is path. Now, if you leave it blank like that, we mean that this is when you've not added anything here like stroke login. So without putting anything, when it's just blank, you're telling it to load which page you put here. The page that you put under component is the page that it will load. So the page I want us to use for the blank part is the home component page. Now let's look at the result. You won't see anything for now because you can't see anything because of the banner. Let's go to another section of the website, which is here, the app component .html. Now, first, let's just get rid of the banner. I'm just going to make it inactive so that we only have the header showing. See, only the header is showing. Then I'm going to use another Angular This is called the router outlet. The router outlet is where now this uprooting will feed the pages that you've described here. This, so that keyword, or is it, I don't know what to call it, that element, the router outlet element, allows the uprooting to inject this page on, this is the main page, on actually the app component page. So now if we check, it says homeworks, meaning this homeworks is from home, this component that we created in the first tutorial. I see it says homeworks. If we put home page, it now says home page. Let's look at another example. So let's go back to the uprooting module and create another path. And this path will have a root of login, and the component is, no, what's happening? Oh, I know why it's doing that, because we didn't put a comma here. Let's remove this component. It's just spelled like that. No comma again. Component. So the component is a login component. I think we created login component, yes. Now what does login component, if you look at the pages, the login component says login works. So another thing you guys should note before you go check out how we're actually importing all this. So if it's not importing automatically for you, you have to import it from here. Import home component from the directory where we put, like on pages. Now these are our actual pages. So once we've done the login page, there's an error. Let's just check. What's it saying? Or you cannot start with a slash. You don't need to put the slash here. You just need to put the name of your root. So if you go now to the login root, it's showing login works. Let's add the last one, and the last one was checkout, for the checkout page, and the component is checkout. Please ensure you're actually importing them. Importing all these components so that it works. And now if you go to the checkout page, the checkout page is showing. So let me show you something else before we continue to do with routing. So basically how you put your elements here on your app component.html is how they appear on the site. Now we have created a component for the footer. The footer is this part. If you look at our completed project, this part. So if I wanted below in all the pages, I can put app footer. Remember guys, if you give your component one word, Angular adds an app to it before the word, and you can, if you're not sure, just look at your component.ts to tell you the selector is called app footer. So now you'll see here footer works, and now it appears on all the pages. If you go to login appears and footer still appears, and also the checkout page appears. So Angular injects everything, all the pages under the router outlet, and anything you put above it or below it appears on all the pages basically. So if you were to, let's put back the app banner, although we're going to delete it later because we don't want it showing on all the pages. The checkout page doesn't have the app banner, so, or the registration page also. So if you go back, see now showing, and logging and footer still shows. Now the next thing we need to do is, if you look at our sample project here, these cards are floating. See on where we are right now, let's just go to home. At this point, the banner is pushing down all the other elements. We need this home to float somewhere here. So to do that, we need to go to our banner component and make some changes. And then you need to add two things. So as you go into component, so let me open it, banner CSS. We need to give it a Z index, and give it a Z index now of -1. The Z index is how, like, you stack your elements. So if you give it a -1, it will be the lowest element in your stack, so everything else will come above it. I need to give it a bottom margin, bottom, just to push everything higher, 200 pixels. Let me refresh, see if that has worked. It's not worked. Just a minute, let me confirm something. Why that is not working. Oh, it was -200, not 200 pixels, so that it kind of just pushes up. So you can see they actually been pushed up was at -200 pixels from the margin for the banner. So the next thing we're going to do is add these cards. Now for these cards, we're going to use material design. We had installed material design in the first part of this tutorial. We are going to be using an element of material design called matte card. So this is actually a matte card, and to do that, we need to go to app component, this app module, and remember, if you're using anything in like material design, you need to import it first. So let's see, if it's called the matte card module, and we need to import it. Let me just get its location, and the location is rectangular material card. You see the error is gone. Let's save that and now start working on the card. Let's go to our home page. It's the home page. Delete this home, create a div. I want a div that will cover the whole page, then another div for the actual product. I'm going to call it product. I'm going to add a matte card. I just add like a title. Let's give it, you can copy this from the website, like if you want to copy from Amazon, whichever products. I'm going to add an Xbox One, and let's look at our page now. So the card is there. So let's continue And just a minute, let's look at our sample project. So we have the title, we have a price, we have an image, then a button. I'm just going to arrange them in that order. So next, it's a price, going to be a paragraph. I'm going to put a dollar sign, and I'm going to put, because the price is a bit bold, so let's just give it a price. Later on, you're going to be actually pulling this from a sample server, so we'll add all of them later, but for now let's just do that. Then what we have next is an image. I'm going to give this a class of product image, in case I need to target it, which I know I have to. Then let me put, I'm just copying, I can get any image from the net, so I'm just getting an image of an Xbox. Then next we need to add a button that says add to cart. Now let's look at our work. It's this one. The image is not loading for some reason. Oh, it's loading now. So it's already showing, almost looks like what we wanted. I don't know whether it should be showing all this. Oh yeah, it should. I have not saved my CSS. I'd actually put some CSS here. So if yours is not showing that way and I'd not saved, I deleted it after recording. This is how it should be showing without any CSS. So you should be seeing something like this. So next, let's actually add the CSS to make it a bit better. Let me just find where I've written it. So we need to go to homepage to CSS. The first thing we're going to target is a product. We're going to borrow down to mat card, and if there's an image, because the image is so huge, and the first thing we're going to add is object fit. Object fit, like I said, helps it contain its weight. So if we play around with the height, the image does not lose like its shape. Let's see how it looks. Now it looks a bit smaller. Next, I move this down. What can I do next? Let's just copy paste this and make them and add several of them. So this div, let's do like 5 of them. 3, 4, 5. So they're aligning horizontally. Let's make them align. No, they're actually vertical. Let's make them horizontal. So to do that, we need to target products. Let's put it at the top. Again, we're going to use flex. Flex. So flex is arranging them. If you notice, how many are this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going up to the end. Let me add a 6th one. Let me see what will happen. So you see, you have to scroll this way. So we need to tell Flex to wrap them down, so that if you have many products, it goes to the next line and the next line. Or if the page is not big enough, it just goes to the next line. To do that, let's come to our CSS, and there's a Flex wrap, try to wrap. and we want to justify content center. So Flex will know to wrap around. You see everything is at the center and it's wrapping around to the next line. That's looking like Amazon already. So the next CSS we may need to do is inside. I want to change the button. This, I should just target it once because I don't want to do all this to add to. So let me just target all of them. So product, define product, define mat card, and inside the mat card define the button and give it this. Again, you can copy all this from the Amazon site. I've just done it before. Let's see if the buttons change color. They've changed color. Something has gone weird. Something is a bit weird, but we'll fix it. So let's actually target now the mat cards. See if that will help. And to give them a specific width. Yeah, we've given them a specific width of 300 pixels. Flex direction of color, minimum height, and display flex. Let's also just give them a margin of 20. As you have a look, they're more spaced out. And let's try and now put everything, like center everything, because they're all offset a bit to either the left or the right. Let me try justify content. See if that will work. Didn't change anything. Let me align items, see if that will work. Yeah, that has worked. When the button has kind of just moved. So let me delete this. I don't think I did delete it. I need that. So that already looks wonderful. I don't know what we should do next. So the next thing we're going to be doing is actually creating a JSON file so that we can be loading this item from the JSON file instead of copy pasting all this. We need to load it from a JSON file, and let me show you how to do that. So let's create a JSON file. I like putting my JSON files in assets. Now we are doing this to kind of replicate what would happen if you create a new folder. If you had a remote server in Express and you're getting your data in JSON. So I've created under assets, I've created a data file folder. Then I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call it products.json. So it's a JSON file. So we are doing this because we can't really, with the time we have on this course, create a whole server just to supply this. So we're just going to give it mock data and assume that's how it will get it from like a JSON remote API somewhere. So let me just copy paste my data. So ideally what you need an ID that's unique. We need the title. That's the first one we created, the Xbox One. A description, a price, an image. Again, you can get this from, you can just Google or get it from Amazon like I showed you, and a rating. So once you've created this, you can create as many as you like. I've created 5 of them. Those are 5 of them. And now we can start trying to fetch this like it was a remote server. Now, Angular doesn't like you using your components to fetch data or to manipulate data. For that, we have a specific object called a service. So we're going to create services that are going to be doing this data manipulation for us. Again, I'm going to go with the same design that I like. I like separating everything into its own folder. So I'm going to create a new folder called services. Services. Now, under services, we're going to create a new service. And to do that, we're going to use Angular as just inbuilt command. It's going to say ng generate. Let me just put G for generate, it will work. Service, and I just want to explore service, and we want to locate that service under that folder and call it API. Okay, let's wait for Amazon to do its thing. It's already created a service. It's actually, let's delete this. This is actually empty. We created a folder called service. So if you don't give it the right, if you don't have to actually create it separately. If you just write it like this as service.api, it will still create. So if you open service, I don't know if you call it services, but let's just call it service. So if you look at service, this is what will be fetching the data for us. And to fetch the data for us, we need to create first a function. Now first, let's say where we're going to be getting the service from. Let's declare private. Let's call it JSON URL. So if you're actually having a URL like a remote URL, you'll put it here like HTTP. But because ours is just on local, you need to go to assets. This is assets. We are going here. Assets, data is in capital, products.json. So this is what I'm talking about, products.json. So what we need to get next, to add next, is the HTTP client. I'm just going to import it. The HTTP client allows us to make HTTP calls. So if you have a remote server, you can actually make HTTP get or set methods, and to use it we need to declare it as private HTTP client. Then I need to create a function that actually does the call to the servers, to the remote servers. In this case, it's just we're just trying to call this JSON the products.json. So I'm going to call the function getJSON. Let me just call it that. And it's just going to be doing one small thing. It's going to be returning this dot HTTP. It has a function called get, and we're going to be passing in the URL. Control copy this to URL. It's actually this dot. So another thing, we need to convert this function into an observable. An observable function is what the name says. It's a function that other objects can observe and wait for them to finish what they're supposed to be doing, and now act after they've finished what it's doing. So the reason we're doing this is because if you're doing like an HTTP call, usually it's not immediate. You'll find that maybe because of latency or the speed of the internet, you won't get your results immediately. So if you put an observable, when we call this function, the program will actually wait for it to finish. And as you can see, it's been imported from RxJS, and we want to give it also, tell it that the feedback would be of any kind. We are not forcing or telling it like what it should get. So that is done. And now to use this, we need to go back to our home page and import it. We want to import this service. Let's see if there are any errors first. There don't seem to be any errors. We need to import this service and actually make a HTTP call. Now to do that, we need to declare it again. We just declare it and call it API, and now actually import the service. And now to import API service from, to go a bit higher, services, API service. Now when we have that, we can actually create a function that calls, let's call it get products. This will run this .api .getJSON. GetJSON is the function, this function, the observable function. And now we'll subscribe. When you have an observable, you subscribe to it to get back the results is going to, the response that it's going to get. And now we can console log this. As a response. Now we need to run we need to run this function immediately this page loads. So to do that, we're going to call it from on init. This is when Angular actually initializes this page. So to call it, we need to run this .get products. This is this function. And now let's check what's happening. Is there an error? Let's just confirm. So it's saying null injector for HTTP client. This usually means we've not registered this HTTP client with app.module that controls the whole website. Now to do that, we need to import HTTP module, and you can see it's imported here. When we save, the error should be gone. It's gone, and you can see the response we're getting. We're actually getting 5 items with different I think when we're starting this, I was in dark mode. Let me just go back to dark mode. We're getting all the 5 items. So let's continue working on this. Let's display the new products now. So the first thing we need to know, we actually need to declare a product variable here. Let's call it products and give it a type of any, and this is an array. And now we need to pass the response to this products array. So this to products is equals to response. Then we need to go to the HTML, delete all of this. I just need one of it. So let's delete all that. And we're going to use an angular function that runs through. If you have an array, you can pass it here. In fact, let me just change this to items so that you guys can see what we're actually doing. Instead of products, let's call it items. So we're going through all the items, and for every one item we need to fetch its title, its image, and its price. So to do that, we need to put curly brackets. I hope you guys are noticing this is items and this is item. So for each item, to get the title, if you look at our package.json, it has a title, a description, and a price. So to get the individual values, you need to put dot down the name of the value. So we put item.value. For the item.price, still the same thing, item.price. And now for this, the image, item.image. Let me just confirm if that's what we call it. Yes, it's image. Now let's save the home page, see what we have. Let's refresh. See, now everything is working. So we have we're actually now fetching these products from our database, and we're displaying also the different prices and the different images. And now the next thing we need to do is maybe create this button and make it actually active. So to do that, we need to create a function that will connect to this button. So that function is, let's call it add to cart. And just for now, we'll just console log what we are adding. Added to cart. And in Angular, if you want to click, you need to add ng click, and now the actual name of the function. I don't know if that's how I called it, I hope so. Let me just confirm. It's add to cart. And now when we click, it's still reloading. Let me just refresh it myself. So the function is actually working. So the next step is actually want to pass which item we have actually clicked on and pass it to the function. Then we need to create a service that actually handles adding items to cart. So before we do that, let's first create a component that will only specifically handle the products. That will leave the home page to only display, and the component that we're going to create will specifically just display components. The reason we're doing that is so that it's reusable, and I'll show you how that comes in. and let's just create it first and I'll show you. So need to ng generate components products. We're going to call it products, and this spelling is wrong, just a minute. Components, this is an N. Products, let's wait for it to finish. It's already done, and now what we need to do is actually call it from home. If you look at it, the selector is up. We can just copy upload products. Let's go back to home and call it, and here I'll show you how to, this is how you pass data between two components. So what we're actually trying to do is to pass what the home page has fetched here, what has fetched, we want to pass it into this component, the products component. And the reason we are doing it is so that you can have different pages displaying using this products component, but displaying different products. Let's say you had a page that had instead of the home page, maybe you had a page for only books. You should be able to fetch books here from the API, only the books category, and pass it to products without having to create another component to display. I think you'll understand more when we implement it. Now we want to pass these items into products. I'm going to give it the keyword products. It has to be in brackets. Now the home page is a parent component. Let's call it products, and what we want to pass is items, the items that we fetched. Now we can copy all of this. Let's cut it and copy it to products, and also copy the CSS, the whole CSS. Okay, let's cut it and copy paste it to the products. Now to tell it what it should get, we need to tell it, to inform it that it should be expecting something from home. We need to use the input. Let's import it. We're importing it from Angular core, and tell it no, this is it's actually a function that it's getting products from its parent components, and products is of type of any, and that which is an array. Now once that's done, let's see if you're passing it. So we're passing items to products, and these products is this, which is our type array. Let's look at our website. I think it's still working. Still saying products works. Let's see if maybe we are not saved. No, this is home component. It should be showing. No, that's okay. Let's save that. That is saved. This is saved. Now let's check. String thing. It's not showing anything. Am I calling from home? Yeah, I'm calling it. How comes nothing is working? Let's see what we've done wrong. If it works. Maybe there is something at the top of products. Oh, this is now, it shouldn't be item of items, because now here we called it products. So we can use, let's call it P of products. Product. No, let's just call it item of products. And now it's working. So the next step was to create a service that does the shopping cart functions. So you need to run ng generate service. You can put an S for service. Services, let's call it shopping cart. Wait for Angular to do its thing. Shopping services is there. Now this will be a bit tricky, but we'll just go through it. So let me open shopping cart service. The first thing we need to do is to save the client's shopping to the browser, and to do that we're going to use Angular's local storage, I don't know what to call it, service. Now the local storage service allows us, it will, depending on which browser you have, if it's a mobile phone, it will look for its local storage and actually save it. Now the first thing we need to do is create a function called, let's call it add product. This will be adding product to shopping cart. Let's use script. And now what we need to do here is use local storage. It's called set item. Set item sets the item into, like, it saves that item into whichever storage you have in whichever device that your client is using. We have to give it a name to identify the name of, like, the storage item. And now here we need to pass, now let's say product. For example, you'd have product here. This might bring an error, so let me just first disable it and just run console log to see whether we're connected to the service. Added. I want to console log what we're getting here. Okay, so let's go back to our products.ts. We need to copy some other things. So we left something on the home page. This is what we need. We need add to cart. Let me completely remove it and bring it to here. Now what we need to do is actually pass which product you've clicked on to add to cart. And to do that, here what we're going to do is we're going to pass the whole item we want to pass a whole item to add to cart. Then if we let's console log to see whether we're connected. No, let me import the service first, and I'm sorry about that. I haven't imported the service. So it's private shopping. Let's just call it shopping cart. Shopping cart service. Now what I want to do is import shopping cart service from services shopping cart service. And now we can actually call the add to shopping cart show me add to cart, and we pass P, which is a product. So if you look now, there's an error from somewhere. I don't read property or of undefined. Let's refresh. Let's see getting the error. Yes, I suspect probably. Oh, it's here. Yes. Did you mean shopping cart service? Okay. Yes. Quick fix. You change the spelling to shopping cart service. Add product. Oh, we need to pass in something. Okay. So let's see what happens. The error is gone. Seems like it's gone. Products are showing. Add to cart. So this is actually we're getting this console log from shopping cart service.ts. So the next step is we're going to be now working on here to actually add these products to local storage on a device.